Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jodie Lynn Craig.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Jodie Lynn, you should have heard me on Monday because you would have had a hard time hearing me. My voice is better now, which is a good thing.
Oh, I'm glad. And you're feeling better.
Oh, well, yeah, I am. Well, I wasn't really all that bad. It's just when you can't make sounds the way you want them to, it makes it hard to do a podcast, as you know full well. But I mentioned that just in case, if I give you a high sign, just jump in a little bit more while I try to cough something out or whatever, I'll turn the mic off and all that good stuff. But,
gotcha.
We'll just get through all this. But and it's going to be good. It's going to be a good conversation because we're joined today by Lillian Savoie, who is she works with women on their confidence and building intuitions and dealing with issues and so forth. And I suspect it's going to be something that you're probably going to want to jump into anyway. So just do your usual thing because I think it's going to work out just fine. So let's bring her in. Lillian, hello, welcome. How are you doing today? Oops, we don't hear you.
Okay, there. How about that?
There we go.
Yes.
Yay! I'm excited to be here, minus all the technical difficulties I've had.
That's the fun part about this show. We have technical difficulties all the time, and we just keep going.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm excited to be here and share this time with y'all. So thanks for having me.
And give people an idea of how you ended up doing what you're doing, because that's always the backstory is always kind of fun. And there's usually, what our experience shows is that there's usually some kind of crash and burn or difficult time or something like that led the person on this path, and then they discovered all these great things they want to share with everybody else, and so that's why they do it.
So true. And isn't that still as it is today? It's
right?
As soon as you go through something, then bam, you get a client call and you're like, I just went through this.
Yes.
I just did this. And so I have the tool to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So I love that. But after college, I just wanted to go out west. I wanted to go out west, and it was down from California, Colorado, or Utah. Got a job in Colorado, and the spiritual teachers just kind of opened up. I had no idea because I was raised in Louisiana, still here, but I lived out west for a long time and was fortunate enough to really find my spiritual teachers, or did they find me, right? Which one comes first?
Yeah.
And they just opened up my intuition. I had no idea what was out there because I was just raised very Southern. We have, Baptist, Methodist, Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Just very in line. And so that just really opened up my mind. I was like, whoa, there is a world out here I have nothing, I don't know anything about. So that was a really fun journey. And it was years and years I practiced, and I thought about opening up my own business while I was there. But instead, I got into the money business of mortgage. So Jodie Lynn and I may share some things around that.
Just a few. Yeah.
So I had a mortgage career. It was great. My crash and burn, unfortunately, was my divorce. That was the crash and burn. And it was torture. It changed my whole being, every cell of my being. And people say you have to start over from scratch, and they mean it. Zero money in the bank. You don't even know who you are. Identity crisis. And then it's even worse when you have a child, because then you have to really be a model to them while you're trying to figure yourself out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally sympathetic. I'm 2.5 years divorced, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you do. And it gets lonely out there, right? Because you're like, whoa, I'm learning this whole new concept of what the universe is, right? God, guides, angels, all of that. And then you're like, oh, wait, I have to be a role model to my child, right? So I can't lose it. Not too many martinis or cigarettes, right? Because those were the tools back in the day.
That's right.
And it was just, okay, hold your stuff together, maintain your career, pay for your attorney bills. Don't act too crazy. Don't act too tight. Don't act this. Don't act that. It's just.
And by the way, along the way, do some personal growth.
Yeah. Figure yourself out.
Yeah, figure yourself out. I remember going to court, and I was dressed in a cream suit, this color, from head to toe. And I was like, oh, I'm going to look really nice. My mom always worked in the court system, so I knew how to dress. And I was like, I'm going to look nice. I'm a professional. And I remember reading the notes, the minutes later, and they were just totally criticizing me for looking nice.
Wow.
And I was just like, well, this is strange. And that's when I really had an eye-opening experience. I'm like, I'm getting criticized for actually self-care, looking nice, showing up on time, being respectful. And the court system just ate me up for a solid year. Wow. And so I really feel for these women and men, because I've helped men to go through this. I really feel, like you said, empathy and compassion for what they are going through in the system, because it's relentless. And it picks you apart.
Yeah,
and it makes you question
the system again. I mean, I went through an amicable divorce, so I didn't have to go through all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you're still going through all the other crap too. It's just you don't have the court stuff piled on top of you.
Yeah. Well, you probably learned your lesson. I'm just guessing, but you probably learned another lesson that I needed to learn. I just learned it in the same year. You were like, you probably made better choices.
Not necessarily.
But, and Jodie Lynn, you being like the money coach, right? And I love to teach people how to make money, because during that time, I was losing so much money so fast. I didn't even know how fast it was coming in and how fast it was going out. I didn't understand money that way. I didn't understand it as energy.
Yeah. And most people are afraid to look.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because you're just in survival mode. I remember being in survival mode, just like, okay, someone needs to pay my bills and do all the side things, because I have to go to work to pay this bill. But someone actually has to sit down and write the check and take care of the dishes. I remember having like an entire support staff. And I don't mean like, a staff. I just mean like parents, friends, that one person that would keep you sane. And then the other person...
Make sure you're eating, make sure you've showered, like the basics of self-care. Just remind me.
Yeah. And for a long time, I had so much hatred, built up in me. And there's this Reiki card that I always pull. I use a deck of cards from Rainbow Reiki. That was one of my certifications that I love. It's just a little bit different than Usui Reiki and some traditional forms, but the card says, I now release all of the hatred within me. And I remember thinking, like, that is such a harsh word. But when you're going through like the thick of it, you can't help but feel some of that.
Sure.
Yeah. And get stuck there too.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, right? Because it isn't so bad that you have the feeling. It's that you stay there. You adopt it as a livelihood. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I do some of my, coaching, I ask, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do what it takes to either stay with the person or divorce the person or find a happy medium when we're dealing with a lot of the narcissism stuff? Because it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just so deep. It's so deep that you get to know yourself on a whole different level. And it doesn't have to just be narcissistic relationships. It can be toxic relationships. It can be, relationships that you want to get out of. Maybe you've been in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge is really what is still in it for you with the relationship and what's not in it for you with the relationship. Because I actually came from a very healthy relationship. But it fell apart in the last few years, and it fell apart in the form of communication disappearing entirely. And so, and when she finally left, first of all, she left in a way that caught me completely by surprise because she hadn't talked about any of it. But after that, then you have to kind of ask yourself, all right, I know I'm going through pain. I know that I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm frustrated, and so forth. But how much more am I willing to put up with putting myself through that? Because as much as she played a role in it, the way I like to distinguish it is like this. I mean, we can all experience situations where we are a victim of something that happened. But That was the
Yeah.
first time. And then all the other times that we play it through our heads over and over again, we're no longer the victim. We're the volunteer because we're the ones who are playing it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's a
Yeah.
confusing situation. On the one hand, we got victimized. On the other hand, we're doing it to ourselves
Yeah. Over and over and over again.
over and over.
Glutton for punishment.
Yeah. And then what
that
my
causes all
teachers
kinds
would
of
tell
problems.
me. Yeah. And then what my teachers would tell me is like, Lillian, you picked this contract in your life. You know, spiritually, you pick it. You can't have the perfect life. No one can have the perfect life.
I can't
We
even
are not
define the
perfect.
perfect life. Can you? I mean, I've never been able to
Exactly.
figure out what that is.
Right. Right.
Not a real one.
And not a real one. And so it's like, okay, well, I didn't pick, you know, some other terrible things that happen in society, but I did pick, you know, to go through a terrible divorce and to have a narcissistic relationship. And I did volunteer for that because I picked it in my contract, to your point.
Yeah.
So when we're faced up with that it's, well, first of all, it's pain that you're going through. And second of all, it's kind of like a slap in the face, like, damn, did I do that to myself? What did I
Yes.
do here?
Yes. And that is what has really, with the intuition, building that intuition, starting from scratch with not knowing anything. And now to this day where, you know, the intuition just guides me and I don't understand it some days, but I still answer the call. I still receive the message and I still follow through with it because I have to trust that if it can get me out of my darkest days, it can also lead the way for work changes and relationship changes and money changes and kid changes. And so if it can help me through the big things, then I need to really capitalize on listening to it in the little things and making all those little tiny tweaks that make life amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
What you're describing is not only the challenge, it's also the goal.
Yeah. It is the goal because how many times do we just hear the message and then, you know, push it away?
Oh, God.
And a million, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had this week I was showing my house because I'm renting out my house. And in the middle of my showing, I sabotaged my own showing.
Wow.
Okay. And
Oopsies.
I literally was like, I closed the door and I said, well, I think I just sabotaged that. And I was telling my daughter, and she goes, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, obviously there's something in my subconscious that's not healed from having my house for rent because it has a 200-year-old plus live oak tree in front of it. Okay. And I miss it. I miss the tree.
Okay.
And the tree plays a vital part in my life and in my book. It's like illustrated in my book. And so she's brought so many people healing and messages. And so I missed it. So I sabotaged my own renter that was ready to rent.
Wow.
Okay. And I had to tell my daughter, I said, well, something in my subconscious that's not healed. And I think I just needed to spend time with my tree. Was that worth me sabotaging an entire month's of rent? No. Was it so dumb? Yes. But the difference is now at my age and then all the work, I can actually recognize it in the moment and then not do it again.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're not beating yourself up over it either, which is where a lot of people get stuck too. Is like, oh man, I did bad. Where's my stick? I'm going to beat myself up.
So that's when my husband and I were just talking about that, Jodie Lynn, this morning. Like, he gets a message in, and if he doesn't do it, and then there's consequences, he does beat himself up.
Mm-hmm.
But see, he didn't have we both work on self-worth issues. Like, that's just why he and I are together. That's just part of our contract as a marriage, right? We both have, and so that's good. But he does beat himself up more than me because I had such the hard time in the court system for the year that it didn't matter what I did that year, I got beat up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know if I'm positive, I'll still have consequences. If I'm negative, I'll have even more consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so really, and I was telling him on the dog walk, I was like, I think our biggest goal is to really trust this bigger source energy. Truly trust it.
It's a big task.
It's a huge task. He's like, well, can't wait to see your plan on that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right. I'm with him. Yeah.
I'm like, but see, if every day we coach ourselves instead of seeking out a coach, we could coach ourselves and be like, that didn't sound very trustworthy, Walt. You know? Or
Sounds
Jodie
like
Lynn,
that
better.
Yeah. I was
Like,
actually
what?
having that conversation with myself yesterday. I was thinking, oh man, I said I would do a bunch of things and I didn't get them done again. And then I stopped and I was like, so what was it? Seriously, what was it that you wanted to do that you didn't get done, that you said that you were going to do, that you didn't do? And why didn't you do them? And it was like, oh, well, I did farming things instead. Okay, that was more urgent and important, and I had the help to do those things, so I had to do them. And then I didn't have the capacity to do these other things. Okay, is anybody going to die? No. Was there even a deadline? Like, no. Like, you set this imposed deadline on yourself. Okay, so good opportunity to look back and look at your priorities for the weekend instead of just aimlessly saying, yeah, I'll get that done for you over the weekend. When you know it's a long weekend and it's like planting season for our farm. So probably a bad idea to sign up for a bunch of extra things. But instead of beating myself up, it was just a conversation instead of looping in my head over and over again. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. What should you have done? And like, why are you so bothered by it?
It's a great
Just
point.
stepping out of it. Yeah.
And in fact, it reminds me, one of the techniques I try to use with myself, when I notice myself doing exactly what you just described, I have this little trigger built in that says, oh, that means I'm not actually appreciating the things I did do. I need to get more appreciation. Because until I go through that process, I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
It's crazy. I was doing the same thing with my husband, Nate. It was like, what did we do this weekend? Like, it felt like it went by so fast. And he's like, we did so many things. And we started like listing them all. And it was like, I don't know, a week's worth of work in 3 days. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, holy man, we were on it. Ahead of the curve. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't remember what you did, because you did too many things.
Exactly. Yes. 100%.
Well, one of my teachers always said, never use the word should,
Oh,
because
I
should,
agree.
you know, and should is related to the ego. It's like the ego will just come in and just attack us.
I call it shooting all over yourself.
Yeah. Me too.
Shooting all over yourself. That's funny.
I shit all over myself.
You could do this. We can do this. You know, just like when we were walking the dogs, I said, you know what? I want to talk about something else besides dog poop. I want to talk about like something deep and meaningful in the 20 minutes that we're walking the dogs, analyzing what color of poop they have and what they ate, right? So it's like I had to start out the conversation. I just went straight for the deep. And maybe y'all have an opinion on this, because I make a money spray. It's called abundance spray. Okay. And it's a Reiki infused. And then all my guides and all my Lillian Juju and all that stuff, put them in a bottle. And this batch, I made custom batches for people based on what their intentions were. Okay. So 3 of the people, maybe 4, because I only did a batch of 8. So, but almost half people wanted a large pile of money. 2 wanted the lotto, and 2 wanted big piles of money. Okay. And then my husband also said, you know, it'd be great. When I asked him if he wanted something, he goes, well, if you have 150,000, you can send it my way. And I was like, well, I don't, but you and 4 other people also want big piles of money. Why do we want big piles of money? So then that's how I started out the dog walk. I'm like, okay, so tell me why you want this pile of money. And he's like, well, I want to travel and pay off some debt. I said, well, but we are traveling and you are paying off debt. So why do you need the pile of money? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I just do. So why have y'all ever been in that situation where you need
yes.
because
Maybe
yes,
like
what
in the
is
last
it?
10 minutes.
Well, I actually go through this. That's the abundance side of like the
Yeah.
teaching and everything that the coaching that I do, but getting down to the root cause of what it is that you want, why you want it. Really, everything that I've heard from myself and my students and everything is it comes to a feeling, oh, it would feel so freeing to not have this debt anymore, to just be able to take care of it right in this instance, or I'd feel so safe knowing I have this giant pile of money in case something goes wrong, or
Yes, in
like it
case.
comes down to what they perceive, what I even perceive it's going to do for my life. And I've been working on this idea for myself personally when it comes to us building our dream home. I'm like, it would be really cool to pay for that sucker in cash. And I've been mulling this idea around. Okay, it's about $460,000 for just the house piece, not the basement or anything else. But what I'd like to pay for in cash is the house piece. So basically $460,000 in cash. That's what I'd like delivered. And I've been mulling over that idea of like, why? Ooh, it'd be nice not to have a mortgage, to be able to save that money instead, basically to say, F you to the banks. I don't need your mortgage. I can do whatever I want. So I'm currently going through that for myself of why it's not a pile. It is a pile of money.
It is a pile of money.
Of, putting it towards this house. And I think it would be freeing to not have a mortgage at 40 and 45.
I hear you.
40 and 40. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's good. That's a good one. So
yeah.
Do you trust that you're going to get a pile of money? That's what I was telling him. I'm like, but we don't really need a pile. We just need to keep doing what we love and passionate, and then it comes. And then the thing I struggled with last week it's kind of funny, but so I had a little coaching session and, kind of a banter back and forth. And my coach said, well, I said, if the universe is unlimited, then why are we limited? Because we're human, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, you just need to expand it. And I was like, I need to open my hole. I got it. I need to open my hole. It needs to be bigger. The hole of receiving. I got it. I was like, this is so weird. But so it's kind of funny because my guides are funny and they do come in and they are a little bit on the, not the A rate, G read. Thank you, PG, right? Yeah. Okay,
so they keep you on your toes. That's a good thing.
They do. They keep me on my toes, and they make the hard stuff laughable. And so that's kind of what I like about my guides and kind of channeling some of this information, because I am working on my second book and I'm thinking, well, I can't name it Open Your Hole. I can't do that. I can't name it Widen Your Hole, and you will receive everything that the universe wants to bring you. Right? So I just laughed and wrote
You probably just should. You probably just should.
That was my first thought too.
And you'll get it.
Widen your hole and you'll get your pile of money. You'll get your dream job, your dream man, your dream woman, your dream anything, right? If you're not the problem.
Yeah, if you get out of the way.
If you get out of the way. And that's what I realized, like with the whole self-worth journey, it is like old past lifetimes programming. It is this life programming. It is all the stuff that we were programmed to that make our unlimited universe a limited whole. So it's just, and it's funny, in my live oak tree, there's a big hole, and it's a big portal. And she's just like the abundance giver, and it faces the house, and it just literally gives anyone that walks in the house abundance. Yeah. Right.
Well, it kind of makes sense though, why subconsciously you'd be struggling with having a renter in that space. If you have this perception of this tree, right, wrong, or indifferent, of how powerful it is and how much it gives to you, why would you want to give that to somebody else?
Yeah.
the logical side of things.
Yeah, logical. And then what you read and what you teach is that the more you give to other people, the more you receive.
That's
so I
right.
got to give my baby away,
Yeah.
right? So someone else can enjoy her, because I've enjoyed her for 13 years or however long it was, somewhere around there. And so it's like, okay, well, we're taught give, 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 right? Give your teachings, give your time, give your energy, give your space, give your this, give your love. But it's like, wait a minute. We also have to like receive love, receive time, receive energy. And especially the people in abusive relationships or that have learned from abusive relationships, we learn about self-worth really quickly because we don't receive very well.
Mhm.
I have a former co-host named Cindy Chavez. She did shows with me for a 4 or 5 year period, something like that. And one of my favorite stories that she told, she's a brilliant woman and has all kinds of really great stuff that she's contributed. But one of my favorites is where she tells the story of how she went to lunch with a friend of hers that she hadn't seen in quite some time. And they had a great time. They did a lot of catching up and so forth. And at the end of the lunch, her friend reached over for the bill and said, "I got this." And Cindy's immediate reaction was, "Oh no, I've got this." And as soon as she said it, she realized she couldn't allow her friend to buy her lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So common, like the fight wars. Like
Yeah.
my husband goes, I don't participate in dinner bill wars. You know, if you want to pay, you're paying.
Yeah.
Like we can either split or I can pick up the tab or you can pick up the tab, but no arguing over I get it, I don't, I get
Well,
it,
it's
I
not really
don't.
an argument. The argument is with yourself. The argument is
Yes.
I'm not allowed to have something bought for me by some. I'm not allowed a gift.
Yes.
Yeah. The very first personal development course I ever went to, we were doing an exercise of like giving compliments and receiving compliments or something like that. And it was just like open forum discussion. The teacher's up the front and everybody's like in the chairs and I'm in the front row because I'm a keener. And, you know, my sister's there with me and we're sitting there and the instructor came over and he gave me a compliment. And it was a very beautiful compliment. And I followed it up with no.
Oh yeah.
No. And he was like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
And I said, What do you mean?" He said, "I am trying to give you a compliment, something from my heart, and you're rejecting it. Like you're not even allowing yourself to receive these words. You feel so uncomfortable." And it was the first time that I realized I had a problem with receiving or somebody taking care of me, being nice to me. Like that was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the ways. Like how we do one thing is how we do them all. Like letting people pick up the check for you, letting people compliment you or take care of you, or even asking. I'm practicing asking for things. The other day I text my husband, "Hey, can you help me with the gate when I get home, sweetie? It's raining and I don't have a coat." And he's like, "Of course." But like the Jody of 2 years ago, I wouldn't have asked that question. I would have got out in the pouring rain without a coat, froze my ass off, and done it myself. It's just this learning process we must go through to receive, to ask for, and then allow the universe to provide.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a story that my ex told me one time. She was a therapist for about a 10-year period. And leading up to being a therapist, she was going through the usual trainings and so forth.
Yeah.
And she went to a weekend training where the man who was leading the whole training exercise that weekend was somebody she really admired. I believe he was a teacher in the system that she was in, but he was like a department head or he was a head of a major program. It was that kind of a deal. And toward the end of the workshop, she went up to him and said, "You know, I just need to tell you, I think you're just amazing." And he says to her, "Well, if I'm amazing, what does that make you?" And she caught herself and she says, "I'm amazing in training."
Amazing in training. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because I think like the biggest thing too is, do you want to get to know yourself? Do you want to dive into training? Because like we all need training, whether you do traditional therapy, alternative therapy, energy therapy, it doesn't matter, right? It's like we all just dive in and we have to like coach ourselves to be positive to get through all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's another reason why I'm so kind of passionate about this is because I was bored for so long. I was like, there's got to be more to life, right? There's got to be more like woven stuff in and interdimensional beings and dimensions. I mean, how can we look up at the sky and just not think there's so much out there?
Yeah.
I love your background, Walt. That's like that. It looks like a giant crystal with all the cosmos.
It's
Yeah.
actually the universe taken through the Webb telescope out beyond the moon. It's literally the way the
Wow.
universe actually looks from outer space without all the filtering.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And I have it there to remind myself whenever I see it that the universe has my back.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great to look at and it makes you wonder like, okay, what's in behind him?
Mm.
What's out there? And I just had a meditation the other day and I was trying to do it in total silence. Normally I have some kind of music on or I'm chanting or I've got my Tesla lights going, some kind of noise. And I was doing it in complete quiet and I just asked to go out into the cosmos. I'm like, just bring me out into the cosmos and just show me stuff. I don't care what it is. And I got all these images and people and beings and I was like, oh, I need to do this more. See, this is cool. So
Yeah.
when it's like this is what just excites me, just being half in the cosmos, half here on the planet Earth. And then figuring out how everybody weaves into that, meeting cool people like y'all that you can talk about things like that instead of, okay, well, I guess we better call our financial planner and get our will done. And then let's plan our vacation. Up, too expensive. Tone it back a bit.
Yeah.
And of course, the big challenge is every step of the way, what we're really doing is we're encountering our own selves. And like you were talking about before, how we're creating our own blocks, our own small holes so that the abundance can't get in.
Yeah.
And those blocks are very deeply programmed into us through our own efforts and through the efforts of people who we care about and who have influenced us and so forth. And one of the challenges that comes out of that, like in my case, for years and years, I was a planner. My dad was a planner. I mean, we were taught you plan. That's what you do. And so anytime you want to try to do something, you plan. Well, I could plan it to death. I could
Yeah.
plan endlessly
Yeah.
with no limits at all to the planning. I would never actually get there, but I could plan continuously.
That's funny.
So for me, the real big challenge, you were talking about the importance of developing that intuition. For me, the big challenge was, well, I don't trust the intuition. I have to plan it all.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a
So
big
how
one.
do I handle that? And what I've actually had to do over time, well, first I did a lot to work on myself, learn to love myself, appreciate myself, build my self-confidence and so forth, which I've done. But I also realized I had to learn to just let go and just trust that somehow through the craziness of the way the universe works, it's all going to work out. And so literally, I now work day to day, almost moment by moment, saying, okay, trust that this is going to work out. And at the same time, the voice in my back of my head saying, are you crazy? It didn't work yesterday either. What are you doing? But literally just letting it go, letting it go. And it does actually often work out. It actually often does play out. But the level of distrust is so deeply ingrained that I just have to keep doing it over and over again. Just, okay, just don't plan, just go with it. Go with what's going to happen and just see if it all works out and trust the roller coaster and so forth.
But it
What
makes
happened over
sense.
time, the roller coaster has gotten less and less. In other words, my
Yeah.
perception of it has changed. But it's still a challenge to this day.
But it makes sense, Walt, too, because of the conditioning of our lives, like from
Yes,
kindergarten, like
exactly.
that you have to raise your hand to go to the
Oh, yeah.
bathroom. There has to be a plan. You have to be allowed. Like they tell you what to do
Right.
from that like moment until through high school and university, and then you get a job, and then your boss tells you what to do and when to be there and how it works. So you think that everything needs to be planned to death and that somebody outside of yourself has to tell you how to get there.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to be distrusting of this little voice inside that says, go left. I promise it's good. You're like, no.
And then there's the perfectionistic side, right? Because the perfectionistic side says, okay, you can't ever get it wrong. You can never get the signal wrong. So if you ever do get it wrong, well, that disproves the whole theory. Nothing can be trusted inside.
Yeah, I know. But see, like we're the teachers, and we're just three people of the many teachers that can teach of how to be in the flow, right? And y'all, Walt, you're literally a healer in the planner world, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the biggest thing is to tell a planner or an overworker or an over even my daughter struggles really much with anxiety because she lives in the future. She's always planning.
Ugh.
You can relate. Always planning. I'm like, she goes, this week, she goes, Mom, I need a 5-year plan. And I go, you need a 1-month plan and a new therapist and meditation and nature. And you need less phone, you know? And I was like, that's your 1-month plan. Just like, why do we have to have a 5-year
just
plan?
scare the crap out of me, Mom. That's what
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
So, I always have to bring it back to the present. It's like, no, everything you're looking at on your phone, the concerts that it's 6 months away, the cruise that you want to take next spring break because this spring break sucked, all that kind of stuff. It's like, this is all bringing anxiety, all of it. And I was like, you just got to live in the moment. It's so easy for me to say because I'm practicing it, right? But to watch a whole nother generation try to practice it when their teacher is the phone,
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to see in somebody else. That's what coaching is so easy. Coaching, relatively speaking, coaching is easy because you can see what the other person is doing. It's your own crap that's the hard part to spot.
Yeah. One of my first teachers said, if you get the same theme in your coaching for the week. So I started out just doing energy readings, just readings, spirit readings, energy readings, that kind of stuff. She's like, if you get a theme, more than 3 people come, I think was her thing, 3 or 4, then the message is actually for you, not for them.
Okay.
And so by the end of the week, I'll be like, damn it. That was a really tough lesson I needed to hear. And then I'd be like, all right, now I set up my own therapy session and my own this. But I don't mind being the guinea pig for all the weird stuff and the stuff that needs to change because I do want to be a better person. There's always things I can change because I'm an open book. So I'm like, oh, yes, I need to work on that and work on this. And I suck at that. And I'm good at that. So are y'all like that where you kind of, you're kind of an open book and you coach yourself? You can really see it for yourself, or you need like someone to smack it?
For me, I'm very much like my own best friend is what I call it. Like I have multiple conversations daily, sometimes multiple times a day of like, oh, that's interesting, Jodie Lynn. What's that about? Oh, I feel like just this back and forth conversation. I always see TikTok videos like that now of the person that's going back and forth and having this conversation. That's me. I'm constantly like, oh, what am I actually thinking? What am I feeling? Why? What's a little deeper there? And then I'll have these like crazy epiphanies, and my husband will come home and I'll be like, oh my God, I solved it. And he's like, what's happening? And I'm like, oh man, I was thinking this and that. And he's like, whoa, can I at least come in the door? What's happening? I don't get it. So I'm very much like that. I need to reflect and coach myself all the time.
You sound like a nice best friend to yourself.
Oh, it's taken practice.
Yeah.
I had a really big stick and I would should all over myself and beat myself at the same time for a really long time. I was very, very toxic within myself. Like I need to be this. And I never felt good enough. So I've worked hard over the last, 15 years specifically on looking at those things and really having compassion and grace for those sides of me that I really didn't like, and just even showing up to look at them. I think that was the scariest part. What if I look and I don't like it?
Yeah.
Then what? So
yeah, like the laundry version person of me is not attractive. She leaves her laundry out. She might not finish it for a day. She definitely does not like to fold. No.
Yeah.
See, I need a laundry coach.
Yeah.
What about you, Walt? Do you coach yourself?
Well, my coaching has evolved over time. I've been working on myself now solidly for about 13, 14 years, something like that. But I didn't start until I was like 55. So I had like a whole life, half a lifetime built up that I had to overcome. And on top of that, actually continue to make changes and so forth. So early on, I did kind of the same thing that Jodie Lynn was talking about. Over time, what I realized I needed to do, kind of tying back to what I said earlier about being the planner, is I just needed to practice trusting that it's going to work out no matter what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to be able to do this, but I finally now go through my day like this. And I have a couple of businesses that I run right now. They're in kind of a chaotic situation, which is not the ideal thing for a planner, to say the least. And and I'm experiencing stuff that comes my way, and I'm actually feeling pretty good about myself because I've had a number of instances where the easiest way to describe it is I was the coolest head in the room. I was the one who was not beating myself up. I was the one who was trying to calm everybody else down. I was the one saying, this is all going to work out. It's going to be fine. I don't even know what the answer is, and I can tell you it's going to be fine. And playing a little bit imposter role there because there was a part of me that said, you're full of crap, Walt. You don't know if it's going to be fine. But I said it with such conviction that they believed it, and I kind of believed it too. And then it actually turned out to be true.
Yeah.
So that's the way I tend to coach myself. I coach myself to just, wait for it. Don't try to plan it. Don't try to figure it out. It's going to work itself out. Let's just see how that works.
Yeah.
And you know what? Most of the time it does.
Yeah, it always does.
Yeah. Well, there are times when it doesn't, but the times that it didn't are the times where I jumped in and tried to plan it.
Well, the idea that I've been working with, on this whole trust the universe is the divine timing, because I think that's part of the small whole. Right. So when y'all see this in my second book, don't be surprised. Okay. So, but it's literally part of the small whole. It's like, okay, well, I want it now. I want this month or next month or June or July or whenever, in the summer months or winter. I need to go skiing. I need to go to the cruise. I need to do this. It's like, what if I'm not meant to? Because every horoscope that I've ever had said I will travel a ton in my older age, like a lot in my older age. And that makes me excited. But I'm like, well, WTF? Why can't I do it now?
Yeah.
Like, why can't I do it now? Why does every horoscope say I'm going to be old and traveling? It's just like, I don't know. I'm going to trust the universe. But the divine timing, like, could we bring it now? Or is that the divine timing that someone's already connected into that I'm maybe not? And that's why I'm reading it. So the divine timing has been an interesting, so I sabotaged the renter. So I kind of screwed up what I thought was divine timing, but maybe it's really opening up the hole for the perfect renter or the not perfect renter, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, it's always divine timing no matter what.
Always divine timing no matter what. But us as humans, we don't see it that way. And I don't know if we will ever really see it that way. When it ends up in a good thing, you're like, oh, that was good. But it's like, why did I have to meet my husband, my second husband, when I was, 38? Why couldn't I have met him at 18 and avoided the whole trauma? Right?
You go through it.
Divine timing.
Yeah. And it's so funny because timing is so warped. Totally. I always remind myself of that when I think about the last decade. So I remember, so I'm going to turn 40 this year. And I remember on my 30th birthday, I had a giant party, a big shaker out at our family farm. And I remember at the end of the night that I was crying because I was always going to be alone. I'm 30. I'm never going to find my man. I'm never going to get married and have kids. And like, that was the ending of my 30th birthday. I was like smoking a cigarette with my sister-in-law, crying my eyes out. And it's crazy because I didn't actually reconcile this until probably about like 5 years ago or something, maybe even longer. Maybe it was only like 2 years ago or something. But now looking back, I was crying on my 30th birthday. Fast forward 3 years, almost the exact same time frame. My birthday is July 17th. I got married 3 years later, July 21st, in almost the exact same spot that I was crying, saying I would never get married.
That's so
3
awesome.
years. Like, How fast did that happen?
That's so fast.
It's crazy. It's divine timing.
But as you pointed out, when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't seem fast at all.
No, and there's so much that happened in that 3 years. Like I had a different relationship and got engaged and broken up, and then found my now husband, dated him, and then got engaged and planned an entire wedding and got married. Like all in that 3 years, all of those things happened. So every time I think things aren't happening fast enough, I remind myself of that period. Like there is no right or wrong when it comes to time. And when it's time, it will just all fall into place.
No, I have to say, what I still aspire to, I'm not quite there yet. I still aspire to not just what I'm doing right now, which is just allowing things to play out, but being enthusiastic about it playing out, believing like, oh, wow, I can't wait for the next thing to happen. I haven't quite gotten there yet. I'm looking forward to that one. Jodie Lynn actually talks about having that experience a lot. And so I kind of envy her on that one. And other people have kind of done the same thing. In fact, that's been like an ongoing thing. I've been doing the show now for a little over 12 and a half years. And in that period, I've had hundreds and hundreds of guests, and many of them have shared storylines like that one. And every time I look at them, I say, why can they do it and I can't do it? I don't understand this. Why is this so difficult for me? It's not difficult for them. Well, you know, their issues were different from mine, but that doesn't matter. This is my issue. Why am I having so much trouble and they're not? You know, that kind of thing would go on and on and on in my head. And over time, I'm getting better and better at being able to let go of it, of just saying, okay, it's going to play out. I haven't quite got to the point though yet where it feels like, okay, I can actually feel good about this happening. You know what I mean, Jodie Lynn?
Mm-hmm. And I think I would love to hear Lillian's perspective on this. But I also do want to add that I think it's some of it may be perception.
I mean, think all of it is.
I feel excited about the unknown to a certain degree on certain topics, but there's other things that I get stuck on. And so I think that that's interesting, that the perception that you have of me is I get excited about the unknown or like it unfolding. And to a certain degree, I do, but it's also something I'm practicing as well, for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to let go of that control.
Well, then I love the unknown, but I think that's what I told my husband this morning on the dog walk. I said, I think our own sabotage is the control. Like we want to control it. And that is what's wrecking it for us. And can we just live in the unknown? And in the archetype cards, you know, it's in the liminal zone. It's like where you're just, I love this deck. It's by Kim Krans. It's great. She's an amazing artist and deck maker, but she has this card and it's like, oh, you're in the unknown. And it's like, how long am I going to be here? Why is this archetype showing up in the unknown? And I'm in the unknown. What am I supposed to do in the unknown? And it's like, you're not who you are. You're not who you say you are. You're not doing what you're doing. You don't do anything. You just hang out in the liminal zone or realm, whatever word you want to put to it, and just enjoy life in that realm. It's like, okay, so what do I do then? Do I do a business plan like I was taught? Or do I meditate more? Or do I like hang out with friends more? Or like tell everything to F off and move on? Or
right?
So it's confusing being in the unknown, but it is really fun because I've also been a planner like you, Walt, but not like to the T. Okay. I was just more of like a business planner. Not like, and then, you know, I wanted to have 4 kids and be married forever and have a big house with a couple of animals and that kind of stuff. Well, when that blew up to whatever volcano that blew from. So then I became the non-planner, and that drives people crazy when you don't plan. They're like, what's for dinner? I'm like, waiting for my intuition to tell me what's for dinner. Do we need anything at the grocery? I don't know. I haven't heard my grocery list yet from my guides. It's like, and then, when people ask me like, will I win the lottery? I'm like, ooh, I'm not good at lottery numbers. I haven't won yet. Not good at that.
I do the same thing with my employees all the time. My employees, because I'm the head of the company, right? So my
Right.
employees will come to me and they'll do what most people will do with the top boss, the one who's paying them. They'll suck up by giving them here's all the information, here's everything that's going on so that you can solve it. And my reaction is almost always, you solve it. I have no idea what the answer is. You know what the answer is. You're the expert at this. And they get really pissed at me over that one.
That's a good one. That sounds like a parent move.
It kind of
Definitely.
is, yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know. Like our big thing in our house is like, I already went to 5th grade.
That's right.
I don't know your math homework. You do your math homework. I already graduated.
That's a good one.
And then when you tie in, like you were mentioning the card from the card deck, the unknown card.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a sequence. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan. I'm a Harry Potter fan.
I'm
And
about to be next year because it's in the school curriculum, but I'm not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I won't spoil it too much for you. But
Okay.
there's a sequence where one of the professors at the Wizarding School, her name is Sybil Trelawney, she's laying out basically a tarot outline, a tarot deck thing.
Yeah.
And they don't actually describe that, but you can tell that's pretty much what she's doing. And as she's laying each card down, she's saying, well, that's disaster, and that's the tower, and that's where this horrible thing blows up. And she says, well, that can't be right. And what she's laying out is actually the outline of the story that's about to happen. But she dismisses the whole thing, and she starts the whole thing all over again because, well, that can't be the right answer.
Yeah, because we don't want the bad news.
No, of course not.
We don't want the tower card.
Right.
But one of my favorite things to do that people could really, I don't know if y'all do it, but I love to give myself readings. So I give myself, so when I'm feeling lost or I'm feeling like maybe I need some motivation. So instead of doing it like my old style, Lil style, it's just like push through, just bring out your masculine energy and get shit done. It's just like, no, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pull some cards. I'm going to meditate. And I asked like a big question. So one of the reading I gave myself this week was, how do I expand and grow, right? How do I open my hole? It's like, how do I do this? And I got the coolest
Seriously, you should use that as a
should I?
And then have like something underneath that quantifies it, but like that's the attention grabber. I just see it already. How to open up your hole. And like have the O on the hole be like that background, that Walt's background, that picture.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
I like that background. But it was kind of cool. Like it was like, don't be afraid of the unknown. It literally said that. It said, say yes to the invitations. So I go through the cards and then I pick out the author's sentences. Okay, that really like trigger something in me that's like, ooh, haven't thought about that. And so then I write my notes like a planner would do, right? You would write your notes from your own reading, and then you have this beautiful reading when you're done for yourself that I think I actually might have here. But okay, look, I'll just give you one answer. So I wrote, what do I need to expand in opening my heart and connect to the infinite? Because I told you I'm working on the whole. So answer calls for new adventures was her advice in the deck of cards.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay. So that's cool. And sail into uncharted seas of my potential.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Don't know what that means yet, but we're working on that, right? That's why it's a reading. It's just kind of cool. And then look, let curiosity be your biggest guide. That's what you said, Jodie Lynn. It's like you have to be like, why did Jodie Lynn say that?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's your guide. So your guide's coming in the form of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So if I like have a bad day, I just read over this and I'm like, well, I didn't do anything on that list. So I need to straighten up and then follow.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all went away for a second.
Yeah, that's right. We lost.
Y'all froze for a second.
No biggie. That was the first time we had a real glitch in the show. So 54 minutes in, I'm not going to complain. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But one thing
So
I
anyway,
do want
I was just bringing that up. because I was just bringing that up because I think it's like a good thing to share, like since y'all are both into energy and readings and law of attraction and all of that. I think it's really good that we can also be our own like reader. Like we
Yeah,
can just, be our own coach and work ourselves through stuff using cards or whatever you use.
I totally agree. Yeah, I know Jodie Lynn does too. Um, there are three things we like to do before we run out of time, and we're about to run out of time, so we got to make sure we get the three things in.
Okay.
First and foremost, you mentioned you have a book out. You mentioned it's the second book that's kind of underway, and we were talking before the show about some other things that you offer on website and so forth. But big piece of the pie here is that there are going to be some people perhaps who are listening to the show who listening to the recording afterward who say, I need to learn more from Lillian. I really would like to know how to reach her. How can I reach her? We should probably provide that information, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I'm on Awaken Change is my website. And so when you get there, it's done by my beautiful husband who owns a marketing agency. So he spent a lot of time and love. So it has everything from meditations to how to do a session with me to some free stuff to a special podcast on money, since we did talk about money today. So Awaken Change, our Facebook and Instagram at Awaken Change too. Oh, and my podcast, I'm only about 25 episodes in, so I'm just a newbie, but I would love if y'all could check out my podcast.
It's Awaken Change, right? That's the name
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. If you don't know what the name is, it's hard to find it. So
Yeah,
that's
you're
why I
right.
want to
Thanks, Walt. Awaken Change with Lillian Savoie. Yes.
Yeah, that one took me about my first 50 episodes before I finally realized that people didn't have any idea what the name of my podcast was.
Well, you made it nice and easy. I like it. And I like your graphics, and your writing is excellent, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I mean, 2,000 episodes later, you kind of get the knack of it.
I can tell you have the knack.
You kind of learn.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the first thing. Second thing is I always like to go to my co-host, Jodie Lynn, because she has a terrific take on what the conversation was all about, and kind of ask her to tie the whole thing together. And Jodie Lynn, what are you tying it together in your own mind today?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things, but it's really funny. I just wrote this down. Open the whole. But instead of HOLE, it's WHOLE. Opening to the whole of this conversation was a reminder of opening to the whole of yourself as a person, those around you, and to the magic of the in-between, the universe, everything that's coming for you and through you and to you. Open the whole. And that's where the magic happens. So thank you for that reminder, Lillian.
Jodie Lynn, you do have a knack for that. Thank you.
She's good.
That was excellent.
Really, yeah. So, and then the final
Really
thing
good.
I like to do, final thing I like
Really
to do,
good.
Lillian, is I like to take advantage of something that is now 21st century. I mean, first of all, this conversation could not have taken place 30 years ago. I mean, you in Louisiana, she's in Canada, I'm in Connecticut. Like, no way that was going to happen.
No.
Now it's like an everyday occurrence, And that's a wonderful thing because, the internet and all the technology have brought us all closer together in a way that just didn't exist before. And as a result, I mean, you mentioned it before, we're putting out all this free content. We're doing all this stuff to help other people and so forth. And that's where I noticed there's a glitch. There's something that's missing because we don't ever get appreciation from others or from ourselves about all the ways that we're helping people we don't even know about. And so, Lillian, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you don't even know about, by all the different ways that you're sharing, all the things you've been learning along the way, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Aw, that makes me teary. Thank you. I felt that. Thank you. I love helping people. I love the small parts, the big parts, and this was really fun with y'all. I really appreciate it.
We had a great time too. That's why we call it your daily dose of happy.
That's right.
Yeah, it was. It was happy. I think I smiled. I might have little cheek imprints on my headphones. I smiled so much. Wow.
That has a carryover effect. That does last for a bit. So
Okay,
yeah.
good.
And by the way, we were worried earlier that the headphones weren't going to make it. They made it all the way through.
All right.
Oh, yay. Thank
So,
you.
seriously, thank you very much for joining us, Lillian, and for doing all the good things that you're doing. And boy, this was a fun conversation.
It was fun. Okay, well, I wish y'all well, and hopefully I'll see you in another realm again.
No doubt about it. I'm sure it's going to be true. And by the way, thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.